Before we begin, viewer discretion is strongly advised. The following is for educational and entertainment purposes only. This is the verbatim federal courtroom testimony of Jennifer Lopez's arrest, as reported by Inner City Press. What Ben Affleck revealed in his testimony has shocked the entire Hollywood. The scandal of the decade is unfolding right before our eyes. If you haven't already, make sure to like this video and subscribe to stay updated on this developing story. In a federal courtroom where Jennifer Lopez now faces serious charges, Ben Affleck made an unexpected appearance. Not as a celebrity, not as an ex-husband, but as a witness. A man armed with evidence that would change everything. A secret phone, hidden recordings, and proof of a conspiracy that stretched back over 2 decades. And then the bombshell dropped. As Ben Affleck's testimony continued, federal agents entered the courtroom. Without warning, without ceremony, Jennifer Lopez was placed in handcuffs. Her face frozen in shock as the gravity of the situation became clear to everyone present. Ben didn't speak through emotion. He spoke through evidence. Why would Ben dare to come forward knowing he could lose everything? What drove him to expose someone he once loved? And what exactly did he witness that was so damning the authorities acted immediately? This isn't just a celebrity scandal. It's a clash between truth and power. Between one man brave enough to speak out and those who believed their fame could buy silence forever. The full story, raw and unfiltered, begins with Ben Affleck's testimony, and what he's revealed ensures you'll never see Hollywood the same way again. I'm standing outside the Manhattan federal courthouse, where one of the most shocking arrests in entertainment history has just occurred. Minutes ago, Jennifer Lopez was escorted from the building in handcuffs, her face hidden beneath a coat as federal agents guided her to a waiting vehicle. Inside that courtroom, the atmosphere was electric as Ben Affleck not only delivered devastating testimony against his ex-wife, but also presented evidence so compelling that federal prosecutors moved for immediate arrest. The judge agreed without hesitation. One morning, the air in the New York courtroom grew thick with tension. Jennifer Lopez, the global superstar who had dominated entertainment for decades, sat confidently at the defense table. She was facing accusations of financial impropriety. The case seemed straightforward, even mundane, by celebrity standards. But no one could have predicted that Ben Affleck, Oscar-winning actor and Lopez's former husband, would be the one to transform a tax case into something far more sinister, a moment that left the courtroom breathless. Ben took the witness stand, his gaze resolute yet heavy with the weight of what he was about to share. He wasn't there merely to speak about finances. He was there to unveil a shocking truth about the woman he once loved deeply. Why would an A-list star like Ben Affleck risk his career and reputation to testify against his former wife? What drove him to break his silence and potentially destroy someone he once planned to spend his life with? Was this a bold stand for justice or the desperate final move of a man with his own secrets to hide? The story traces back to their rekindled romance in 2021, when Jennifer once again became Hollywood's golden couple. After their wedding in 2022 and subsequent divorce in 2024, the world assumed they had simply grown apart. Ben Affleck believed he knew Jennifer Lopez completely. Every smile, every glance, every subtle gesture. Like any other day in the tax evasion trial of Jennifer Lopez, the room buzzed with low conversations. Reporters hunched over notebooks in their designated rows, and lawyers whispered strategies as they waited for the judge to enter. But when Ben Affleck's name was called as a surprise witness, the room changed instantly. You could hear a pin drop. Some people thought it was a mistake, but the way Ben walked to the stand, his shoulders tense and his jaw set firmly, told everyone this was deadly serious. The judge raised an eyebrow, and Jennifer Lopez, who had been casually reviewing documents with her legal team, suddenly froze. Her confident expression melted into something closer to fear. Ben Affleck took the oath without looking at anyone. "I'm here because I can't stay silent anymore," Ben began. "What started as suspicions became certainty, and what I discovered goes far beyond tax issues." The judge allowed him to continue, despite objections from Lopez's attorneys. And from that moment on, the entire trial shifted because what Ben was about to say wasn't part of any tabloid speculation or social media rumor. It was something that had haunted him for years. Ben explained that their reunion in 2021, "We were happy at first," he said, his voice steady but tinged with sadness. "Or at least I thought we were. Things started changing about 6 months into their reunion. Jennifer began receiving calls at strange hours. When Ben asked, she'd smile and say it was just business or nothing important. Then came the unexplained absences. Jennifer would claim to be at studio sessions that her team later knew nothing about, choreography rehearsals that weren't on any schedule. "I trusted her completely," Ben testified. "But something felt wrong. There were inconsistencies I couldn't ignore." One night Ben woke to find Jennifer gone from their bed. It was 3 a.m. Concerned, he searched the house, eventually finding her in their home office, hurriedly ending a video call. When she noticed him, she slammed the laptop closed. "Just work stuff," she said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Go back to bed. But Ben had seen enough of the screen to notice something odd. It wasn't a business call. It looked like security camera footage of what appeared to be a private residence. The next morning, when he casually asked about it, Jennifer became defensive, accusing him of spying on her. It was their first major argument since getting back together, and it ended with Jennifer leaving the house for 3 days, claiming she needed space. I've kept silent about this for too long, Ben said, his voice gaining strength. I've made films, but none of that matters compared to what I witnessed and what I found. He turned slightly toward Jennifer. You built it all on lies. Ben told the courtroom that his suspicions grew when Jennifer began taking mysterious trips to Miami and the Cayman Islands. Not proud of what I did next, Ben admitted. But I needed to know the truth. While Jennifer was away on one of her trips, Ben searched their home. In her private office, behind a false panel in her closet that he accidentally discovered when looking for financial documents, he found a hidden safe. Then I tried the date we first met back in 2002. The safe opened. Inside, Ben discovered 3 phones, multiple passports with Jennifer's photo but different names, and a laptop. What I found on that phone changed everything, Ben testified, his voice dropping. The gallery leaned forward. Jennifer's attorneys objected vigorously, but the judge overruled them after prosecutors argued for relevance. The phone contained messages, photos, and videos that revealed a shocking truth. Jennifer Lopez had been running an elaborate money laundering operation for years. The tax evasion charges are just the tip of the iceberg, Ben stated. This wasn't about hiding money from the government. Ben described finding spreadsheets tracking millions of dollars moving through shell companies, all disguised as legitimate business expenses for Jennifer's various enterprises. But most disturbing were the videos. She recorded everything, Ben said, his face pale. Not for blackmail, but for protection. She kept video evidence of every meeting, every transaction, every person involved. It was her insurance policy. One video showed Jennifer in a luxury hotel suite with known associates of a major drug cartel, discussing how to move money through her upcoming world tour. Another showed her instructing staff to create fake contracts and invoices for services never rendered. The person I thought I knew didn't exist, Ben said, his voice hollow. Behind the glamour and the talent was someone who had built an entire criminal enterprise. Ben explained that Jennifer had developed an elaborate system to maintain absolute control over her criminal operations. She compartmentalized everything. Different teams handled different aspects, and few people ever saw the complete picture. She had a method, Ben testified. She'd bring people in slowly, first with small requests that seemed innocent to favor here. A special arrangement. Nothing overtly illegal, just bending the rules a little. Once people were compromised with these smaller infractions, Jennifer would involve them in increasingly questionable activities. If anyone expressed concern, she had ways of ensuring their silence. There were the carrots, promotions, bonuses, access to her exclusive world, Ben explained. And then there were the sticks. Ben paused, swallowing hard. I found a folder on the laptop labeled insurance. It contained compromising information on everyone in her inner circle, myself included. The folder contained photos, videos, and documents that could destroy careers and relationships. Jennifer had methodically gathered dirt on everyone close to her, creating a web of fear that kept people loyal. No one ever explicitly threatened, Ben clarified. They didn't have to. Everyone understood the unspoken rule: loyalty to Jennifer was non-negotiable. Ben described how he discovered that Jennifer's beauty line wasn't just selling cosmetics, it was moving money. Tour venues were selected based on how easily funds could be manipulated, not fan demand. Film projects were chosen for their ability to justify large cash movements across international borders. Every business decision had 2 purposes, Ben testified. The public one and the real one. Most disturbing was Jennifer's careful cultivation of her public image as a self-made success story, a hardworking artist who had pulled herself up from humble beginnings. The image was a perfect cover for her activities. Who would suspect that America's beloved entertainer was orchestrating a massive criminal enterprise? Ben said, his voice steady but hollow. I lived with both versions of public icon and the private criminal. It took me too long to accept that the woman I loved never really existed. Ben described the moment everything changed for him. After discovering the hidden safe and its contents, he was faced with an impossible choice: remain silent and become complicit, or speak out and potentially destroy his own life in the process. I didn't know what to do, Ben admitted. I loved her. Despite everything, some part of me still did. And I knew what coming forward would mean, not just for her, but for me. For weeks, Ben said he wrestled with his conscience. He considered confronting Jennifer directly, but feared what she might do if she knew he had discovered her secret. He thought about anonymously tipping off authorities, but worried his connection would eventually be revealed. Then something happened. That made the decision for him. a young production assistant on a film Jennifer was producing, suddenly disappeared after raising questions about some financial discrepancies. Ben revealed the official story was that she had quit abruptly and moved abroad, but I had seen her name in some of the documents from the safe. She had been asking too many questions. I couldn't prove anything happened to her, Ben clarified, but the timing was too convenient. And I saw how Jennifer reacted when her name came up. There was nothing there. No concern, no curiosity, just cold emptiness. That night, Ben made copies of everything he had found and secured them in multiple locations. He contacted a federal prosecutor he had met years earlier while researching a role and arranged a confidential meeting. I knew what it would cost me, Ben said. My reputation, possibly my career, certainly any peace in my life. But I kept thinking about that young woman, about all the people being used in this scheme without their knowledge. Staying silent was becoming part of it. Ben paused, then looked directly at Jennifer for the first time since taking the stand. The breaking point wasn't fear, he said. It was recognizing that evil thrives when good people do nothing, and I decided I couldn't live with doing nothing. The courtroom fell completely silent as Ben began the most damning portion of his testimony. He requested permission to present evidence directly to the court, and the judge granted it over the strenuous objections of Jennifer's legal team. Federal agents brought in a sealed evidence container. Ben authenticated the contents, the original phones and laptop he had discovered, along with backup drives containing all the files. Everything is there, Ben said. The transaction records, the meetings, the videos, the blackmail material. It's all exactly as I found it. As a federal agent connected the laptop to the courtroom's display system, Jennifer's composed facade finally cracked. She leaned forward, whispering urgently to her attorneys. One stood to object, but the judge cut him off. The court will examine this evidence, the judge stated firmly. The first video played. It showed Jennifer in a hotel suite in Dubai, calmly instructing someone off camera about how to structure payments to avoid detection. No more than $10,000 at a time, she said on the video. Spread it across all 5 accounts. Make it look like merchandise sales. More videos followed. Jennifer meeting with known criminals, Jennifer threatening a nervous accountant who raised concerns, Jennifer laughing about how easy it was to fool tax authorities. Throughout the presentation, Ben remained composed, authenticating each item and explaining its context. Jennifer, by contrast, seemed to shrink in her chair, her famous confidence evaporating with each new revelation. The first video played. It showed Jennifer in a hotel suite in Dubai, calmly instructing someone off camera about how to structure payments to avoid detection. No more than $10,000 at a time, she said on the video. Spread it across all 5 accounts. Make it look like merchandise sales. More videos followed. Jennifer, meeting with known criminals. Jennifer threatening a nervous accountant who raised concerns. Jennifer laughing about how easy it was to fool tax authorities. Throughout the presentation, Ben remained composed, authenticating each item and explaining its context. Jennifer, by contrast, seemed to shrink in her chair, her famous confidence evaporating with each new revelation. When the evidence presentation concluded, the lead prosecutor stood. Your Honor, in light of this new evidence, the United States requests an immediate arrest warrant for Jennifer Lopez on charges of money laundering, racketeering, tax fraud, and obstruction of justice. The judge considered for only a moment, before nodding. Request granted. Federal agents moved toward Jennifer, who finally broke her silence with a desperate cry. Ben, how could you do this to me? After everything we meant to each other. Ben looked at her directly, his expression not angry but profoundly sad. This isn't about us, Jen, he said quietly. It's about right and wrong. It's about all the people you've hurt, all the lives you've damaged. I loved you, but I can't protect you from the consequences of your own choices. As the agents approached with handcuffs, Jennifer's final mask slipped. Gone was the beloved entertainer, the glamorous icon. In her place was a cornered criminal, eyes darting for escape routes, calculating even now if there was a way out. No one will believe you, she hissed at Ben. I'll make sure of it. Ben shook his head. The truth is already out there, he replied. And it's stronger than either of us. The sound of handcuffs clicking shut echoed through the silent courtroom. When Ben Affleck stepped down from the witness stand, he didn't look like a man who had won anything. He looked exhausted, as if the weight of secrets had been physically crushing him. The courtroom remained eerily silent as federal agents escorted Jennifer Lopez away. Even the judge seemed shaken by what had transpired. Several jurors wiped away tears, not of sympathy for the fallen star, but from the shock of such betrayal of public trust. Ben didn't speak to the press when he exited. He walked out of the courthouse with his head held high, but his shoulders carried the weight of years of silence and the knowledge that he had just helped bring down someone he once loved deeply. When later asked by a persistent reporter if he regretted his decision to come forward, Ben reportedly responded, "The only thing I regret is not seeing the truth sooner." But outside the courtroom, the entertainment industry was imploding. Studio executives called emergency meetings. Projects involving Jennifer Lopez were immediately suspended. Her business partners issued statements distancing themselves from the star. Her beauty line stock plummeted within hours. Behind closed doors, damage control teams worked frantically. Publicists fielded endless calls. Legal teams prepared. For the fallout, the investigation expanded, with federal authorities indicating that others in Lopez's inner circle might soon face charges of their own. Social media exploded with reactions. Some fans remained steadfastly loyal, claiming Ben's testimony was motivated by jealousy or revenge. Others expressed shock and betrayal, feeling personally deceived by a star whose rags-to-riches story had inspired them. Video clips of Jennifer's court appearance spread like wildfire, with body language experts analyzing every movement, every expression. Most painfully revealing were the retrospective analyses, now flooding news sites and YouTube channels. People combed through Jennifer's past interviews, social media posts, and business announcements, finding suspicious patterns that seemed obvious in hindsight. The unexplained wealth, the constantly rotating staff, the international business, deals that never quite made sense. Fans weren't just shocked, they were heartbroken. This wasn't just another celebrity scandal. It was the complete unraveling of a carefully constructed myth that millions had believed in and been inspired by for decades. Industry insiders who had worked with Jennifer began coming forward with their own stories. Most claimed ignorance of any criminal activity, but many admitted to witnessing concerning behavior or questionable business practices they had dismissed at the time. Legal experts weighed in with sobering assessments. Jennifer Lopez potentially faced decades in prison. If convicted on all charges, her fortune would likely be seized, her legacy permanently tarnished. And what of Ben Affleck? Some hailed him as a hero who sacrificed personal comfort for truth. Others questioned his motives and timing. But as one prominent entertainment lawyer noted on a cable news panel, regardless of how you feel about Affleck's actions, the evidence speaks for itself. This isn't about him, it's about an alleged criminal enterprise that operated in plain sight for years. The era of silence was finally over. The truth, however painful, had finally come to light. This story continues to develop by the minute. If you want to stay updated on this shocking case as more details emerge, make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel. We'll bring you the latest developments as soon as they happen. The Jennifer Lopez we thought we knew may be gone forever, but the full truth is only beginning to emerge, even as authorities continued to build their case. The entertainment world faced a reckoning. The illusion of invincibility that had shielded so many celebrities was crumbling. If Jennifer Lopez could fall, anyone could. The public was beginning to ask harder questions, not just about Jennifer, but about the entire system that allowed her to operate unchecked for so long. Former employees came forward with more disturbing stories. One former accountant claimed he had flagged inconsistencies in the books, but was pressured to let them go. A former assistant described being asked to deliver envelopes to undisclosed locations without question. A bodyguard revealed that travel itineraries often changed at the last minute, sometimes to countries with notoriously lax financial regulations. What was once dismissed as diva behavior was now seen in a far more sinister light. The carefully curated narrative of a hard-working, self-made superstar was collapsing under the weight of undeniable evidence. Documentaries were rushed into production. Investigative journalists dug deeper. Lawyers scrambled to understand the full scope of the financial empire Jennifer had built and whether any of it was legitimate. As the world waited for Jennifer's next court appearance, Ben Affleck remained out of the public eye. Friends reported he was focusing on his children, finding solace in their innocence as the storm around him raged on. Some speculated that Ben's decision to come forward was a way to finally free himself from the grip of a complicated and toxic past, but whether seen as a whistleblower or a betrayer, Ben Affleck had forced Hollywood and its audience to confront an uncomfortable truth. The glittering world of fame can hide shadows no spotlight can reach. As the fallout continued to ripple across the entertainment world, new revelations surfaced, each one more shocking than the last. Federal investigators, now armed with the treasure trove of evidence Ben Affleck had provided, expanded their probe. They began to trace the labyrinth of financial transactions Jennifer Lopez had allegedly orchestrated over decades. Offshore accounts, shadow companies, secret properties, all meticulously hidden under layers of legal and financial structures that had, until now, gone unquestioned. One particularly stunning discovery involved Jennifer's global tours. Venues were often booked not because of fan demand but because they provided cover for moving large sums of money internationally. The team uncovered payment trails leading from ticket sales to offshore entities completely unrelated to the entertainment business. Jennifer's concert merchandise, it turned out, had become a sophisticated tool for laundering money. Every t-shirt sold, every poster purchased, it was all part of the machine. One investigator revealed. The public struggled to reconcile the icon they had adored with the shadowy figure now emerging in court documents. Interviews from past decades were re-examined. with some fans pointing out cryptic comments Jennifer had made that now seemed to carry a double meaning. The realization that they had celebrated someone who might have manipulated millions left many feeling betrayed. Meanwhile, Ben Affleck stayed largely silent, refusing interviews and declining all requests for comment. He was seen occasionally in public walking his dog, taking his children to school, but always distant, always burdened by the weight of his decision. Sources close to Ben reported that he had lost sleep, that he replayed his testimony over and over, questioning if there might have been another way, but deep down, he knew their WASN, single quotes, back in the courtroom. The legal battle intensified. Jennifer's attorneys worked feverishly to challenge the evidence, filing motion after motion to suppress the videos, the financial records, and the testimony. They argued that Ben Affleck's discovery of the hidden safe constituted an illegal search, that he had no right to access her private materials. But prosecutors countered that Ben was a legal resident of the home at the time, and that his actions were driven by a moral obligation, not malicious intent. The judge weighed both sides carefully, but the overwhelming volume of corroborating evidence made it impossible to dismiss. Witness after witness was called. Former assistants, accountants, bodyguards, each with stories that painted a darker picture of Jennifer Lopez's empire. Quiet payoffs, sudden firings, mysterious transfers of staff to international locations with no clear purpose. One particularly chilling testimony came from a former choreographer who claimed she was pressured to sign false invoices for services never rendered. When she hesitated, she received a visit from men she didn't know, men who made it clear that refusal would come with consequences. Shaking as she testified, the choreographer admitted she had lived in fear for years, believing that speaking out would cost her everything. But now, the silence was broken. The prosecution introduced evidence that showed a pattern, a methodical, deliberate system Jennifer had built to keep everyone in check. It wasn't just about moving money. It was about power, control, and ensuring that no one could ever challenge her without risking their own downfall. Jennifer Lopez, who had once graced red carpets and stages across the world, now sat stone-faced as former allies became witnesses. Against her, one by one, the people who had orbited her life stepped forward to reveal the fragments of truth they each possessed. Separately, their stories might have seemed insignificant, but together they formed a devastating mosaic. Still, Jennifer fought back. Through her lawyers, she painted Ben Affleck as a bitter ex-husband seeking revenge. They suggested his testimony was tainted by jealousy and the collapse of their relationship. They hinted at his past struggles with addiction and his own complicated reputation. But Ben's evidence was undeniable. The videos, the documents, the photos, they spoke louder than any accusation of personal bias. The defense's narrative crumbled under the weight of cold, hard facts. The media frenzy showed no signs of slowing. News outlets broadcast every twist and turn. Social media platforms became battlegrounds for public opinion. Hashtags supporting Ben trended alongside those defending Jennifer. Deep dives into Jennifer's financial history went viral. Fans created timelines, charting Jennifer's career alongside the secret trips, the unusual business deals, and the rapidly growing wealth that had always seemed too extraordinary to question. And as the investigation deepened, names of other celebrities and industry insiders began to surface. Jennifer Lopez's alleged empire had touched more lives than anyone had realized. Subpoenas were issued. Additional arrests were rumored. The possibility of a much larger criminal network loomed. In a rare public statement, federal authorities confirmed that they were now looking into Jennifer's connections to international money laundering organizations. The case, which had started as a seemingly straightforward tax fraud trial, had grown into a complex web spanning continents and implicating figures far beyond Hollywood. Jennifer's legal team scrambled to mount a defense, but the walls were closing in. Additional evidence emerged, including secret recordings Jennifer had made of phone calls with financial advisors, discussing tactics to avoid detection. One such call captured Jennifer saying, "They'll never touch me. I'm too big to fall," but she was falling, and there was no safety net waiting. As the trial neared its conclusion, the weight of Ben Affleck's decision remained visible on his face. Friends said he spoke little about the case, but that he remained firm in his belief that he had done the right thing. He had sacrificed his privacy, his peace, and perhaps even his standing in an industry that doesn't easily forgive those who break its unspoken codes of silence. When closing arguments began, the prosecution didn't need theatrics. They simply presented the evidence once more. The videos, the spreadsheets, the testimonies, the story told itself. The defense, by contrast, was left to plead for leniency, to suggest that Jennifer's fame made her a target, that the pressures of her life led her down a dark path. But the jury, their faces weary from weeks of explosive revelations, seemed unmoved. When the verdict finally came, it sent shockwaves through the world. Guilty on all counts. Jennifer Lopez sat motionless as the words were read. The woman who had once commanded the adoration of millions now faced decades behind bars. her empire crumbled in real-time stock, prices plummeting, endorsements vanishing, partnerships dissolving overnight. As she was led from the courtroom, Jennifer turned to Ben one last time. "You destroyed me," she whispered. Ben's reply was quiet but resolute. "No, Jen, you destroyed yourself." The courtroom door closed behind her, and with it, an era came to an end. The scandal that shook Hollywood was more than just headlines. It was a painful reminder that beneath the surface of glamour and fame, some secrets are too big to stay buried. And sometimes, the truth finds its way out even from those you least expect.